Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our Thursday Talks at IHM Aurangabad. Today we bring you another thought-provoking session in our ongoing webinar series. Today's session will be on renewing resurgence in restaurants. To begin with, I'd like to introduce our two guest panelists who are joining us remotely from New Delhi. Our first panelist is Mr. Zorawar Singh Mann, a proud alumnus of IHM Aurangabad from the class of 2008. Who began his career in food and beverage service department and worked with Marriott International for 12 years over various locations in Kuala Lumpur, Bangalore, Chandigarh, Hyderabad, and rose to become the director of food and beverage for Le Meridian, Gurgaon. Our second panelist is Mr. Rahul Dua, another proud alumnus of IHM Aurangabad from the class of 2008, who has worked in food and beverage service with the Taj Group of Hotels. He is a certified sommelier awarded by the Court of Master Sommeliers and moved to Middle East to work with Chef Gordon Ramsay's signature restaurant Beverage in Hilton, Dubai Creek. He is currently a proud and successful restaurateur, partnering with Indie Restaurant Co. in New Delhi. Our next panelist is Mr. Gautam Sen, who is the Associate Professor and Course Administrator for both the undergrads program at IHM-A. He has 8 years of experience in food and beverage service in ITC Shanar Bangla, the Park Hotels, and Taj Bengal. He has been an integral part of the IHM-A family for the past 13 years. I move on to our next panelist, Mr. Ritesh Pathania, who is an assistant professor for food and beverage operations at IHM-A. He is a seasoned hospitality professional with extensive experience of 17 years, having worked with Taj Palace, the Grand, and JP Hospitality Group in New Delhi. Our last panelist is Mr. Rushad Kavina, the Dean for Undergraduate Studies at IHM Aurangabad. He is a proud alumnus of the Institute from the class of 97. Mr. Kavina has worked with Taj Hotels in the area of food and beverage service and has now been with the Institute for over 16 long years. Finally, our moderator for today's event is Mr. Kujur, another proud alumnus from the class of 2010. Mr. Kujur has 10 years of food and beverage operational experience, working for renowned hotel companies like Marriott International, Intercontinental Hotels, and Radisson Hotel Group. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today. I now pass on my proceedings to Mr. Kujur. Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Kujur.
Thank you, Ranajoy. With the pandemic and the lockdown changing customer needs, Indian restaurateurs are brainstorming solutions, from drones for sanitizing and wait staff in mask and PP to different table layouts. Let's see what the industry experts have to say about it, how the ramp up look like, whether restaurants are going to sold out on weekends or do we have the same situations like before. So before I start, I will give a brief about the webinar. There will be 2 rounds. Each panelist will get 2 questions to answer. That is 1 question each per round. For every question, you will have 3 minutes time to answer with a grace of definitely plus minus 1 minute. So as I see our panelists are ready, waiting. Without taking much of time, I start my first round and my first question goes to Mr. Mann. Mr. Mann, what are the key constraints for restaurant operation in the current scenario? Over to you, Mr. Mann.
Thank you, Ocean. I'll take it forward from here. What we've seen recently is that, we being in the Gurgaon market, we were primarily, our customer base was very corporate. And what has happened suddenly is that the domestic market has kicked in. That means our customer base has now shifted from corporate to social primarily. That changes expectations. That's number one. Realigning your people is the first thing that we actually thought of, right? And what we want to say here is that all corporate guests and social guests have different requirements. When it comes to a corporate guest, it's about efficiency. When it comes to a social guest, social segment guest, they look for quantity more than just quality and efficiency. The key constraints that I look here is that firstly, you're working with newer models of work. That means a lot of sanitization has come into place. A lot of turnover time has increased between every 2 seats. You got to sanitize the table, you got to sanitize the seat, keep the table empty for 10 minutes. That increases the waiting time at the restaurant. With social guests, what we've seen recently is when you're running the hotel for around 200 rooms occupied, with corporate guests, you had an occupancy ratio of about 1:1 or 1:1.1 max. With social guests, our occupancy ratios to guests have increased to 2 to 2.5 in certain cases. So that means if you've got 200 rooms occupied, you're looking at a crowd of around 450 people for a breakfast meal period. These guys are having dinners in-house. Their length of stays are reduced from 4, which was earlier, to 1. That means they're going to use all your guest amenities inside the hotel. And that means you need to be prepared for all your meal periods, especially in the restaurant, at a certain capacity that now so the government gave us guidelines saying, guys, reduce your capacity. So what do? You come up with newer ways of managing seats, right? So one of the key constraints was, how do you manage seats? How do you seat everybody? So you've got separate areas now divided up. So you've got a different area for people to go grab their drinks and have appetizers to start with while they wait for an area. Another key constraint that I would say is, sanitizing is one bit, but having the place look clean. Having your buffets are not self-serve anymore. Your buffets are now gone to a level where you've got a person standing there and helping the guests get their dishes on their plates. So we want to implement a no-touch policy in our restaurant, right? And certain stations where we cannot have anybody placed there, we make sure that we changing our buffet flatware every 20 minutes or in a cycle, to be precise, depending on the rush in the restaurant. Now, on a positive note of what I see is the industry is bouncing back beautifully, right? And we are also pegging our current numbers to what we were doing in 2019. And I currently see that starting this month, we are already sitting at a 70% of our recovery to 2019 of what we had done in this month. Next month, we're targeting an 85% bounce back. That means 85% recovery of what we did in 2019. So there's less to be worried about, but it's more about being efficient. It's more about managing your resources correctly, right? And that's how I sum it up.
Thank you, Mr. Mann, for such valuable insight and letting us know about the ground reality. Well, hope is being able to see that there is light despite of all the darkness. And we all are hopeful about the excellent future ahead. So moving on to our second question, I would like to ask Mr. Dua, adhering to social distancing norms, uncertainty of contamination and work from home has impacted food habits and preferences of people at large. How are restaurants responding to accommodate such changes? Mr. Dua.
Thank you so much for having me. Like Zorawar said, mentioned about all of the new sanitization processes and the reduced capacity. Apart from all of that, I am a small business owner. So for me, one of the most noticeable change and recognizable change that I've seen is, of course, the rise of home deliveries in all these past few months. Initially, people were so hesitant in stepping out to crowded places and indoor venues, and the restaurant space was just not an option. So the one biggest change, of course, we've seen is there, and that has resulted, in an explosion of cloud kitchens, new big brands launching their own cloud kitchen verticals. Lots and lots of new home chefs who've come into the business, which is all new competition. So the food and beverage industry could possibly be the only industry which, even during a pandemic, although so many restaurants shut, so many places had to close down, overall you see an increase in the number of entrepreneurs who finally come onto the picture post the pandemic. So initially, I mean, in the restaurants that I run, deliveries and takeaways were sort of looked at just as a little extra bonus after your dine-in sales. Whereas during the initial hard lockdown, we saw that it was essentially 100% delivery business to delivery sales to begin with, which slowly started shifting to now where I'd say it's kind of stabilized. But the one thing that we've all realized is the importance of home deliveries and how much of an opportunity and a missed opportunity that was for a lot of small businesses. It was not something we'd focus on particularly. Everything from when it comes to small things like packaging and just packaging, deliveries, the overall experience of home deliveries was not paid so much emphasis. You put all your resources into making sure that the dine-in experience at the restaurant was great. So it was a lot about relooking everything. Even when it comes to menus, menu sizes, there has been a big change in trying to make sure that you're working. Again, like Zorawar was saying, efficiency is the name of the game now. So working with efficient, compact menus, figuring out new things that a lot of people have responded. Again, like I said, deliveries is one thing. Bars and nightclubs were one of the biggest sort of subsection of F&B that took the hardest hit during these times, and it's still sort of been the slowest to recovery back because people have been so hesitant in stepping out. So that got converted into a lot of people having small events at home. It got converted into a lot of people cooking gourmet food, restaurant-style food, trying to replicate restaurant-style food at home. That gave birth to new businesses, whether it's DIY meal kits, cocktail mixers. There are so many artisanal mixers and tonics and things like that that have come up just over the past 6 months during the pandemic. But yeah, these are some of the main changes that I have kind of personally gone through. Also, like Zorawar was saying, it's been a great past 2 months, I would say. Again, we are in all of our venues also back to about 70% of pre-COVID 2019 sales levels. We've had a couple of days of record-breaking sales. Valentine's Day was absolutely amazing. They say Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, and New Year's Eve are the 3 days that any good restaurant should be packed to capacity. And that turned out to be true. There were people out on the streets. Almost every restaurant that I saw was full on Valentine's Day. So that is a very good and encouraging sign for the future.
Thank you, Mr. Dua. The time is really uncertain, but it gives me real thrill seeing the product innovation and development happening towards meeting the changed customer behavior and requirement. Well, and the day will not be far away when we surpass customers' experience and expectation in the given scenario too. Those were some extraordinary pieces of information, Mr. Dua.
Can I add something to Rahul's
yes, please.
Word. Now he says about home delivery. This is the first time probably that hotels got into a home delivery model. And I can remember the month of June I was here. About 30% of the total hotel revenue was being generated by a plain home delivery model. We were able to reach out to our guests, delivering buffets to them, having 30 items as part of a one fixed menu being delivered to them in our hotel cars. So hotel Innovas were running around, right? And then taking it forward, we suddenly saw an influx of people now slowly, actually not suddenly, coming to the restaurant. Our guests who loved our food back at home, which we were delivering through our buffet models, delivery buffet models, started getting our guests back, saying we are open. It was all announced all over. So home delivery played a huge part when it came to this, and probably hotels for the first time got into a home delivery model. And I believe now every single hotel in Delhi NCR is available on Swiggy, on a Zomato, direct channels. And this has completely changed our paradigm of thinking. It was standalones who were doing a brilliant job. And we had to learn from them how to evolve further. So our packaging, I think I must have changed our packaging over about 6 times before getting it right. And finally we are there, but we still see that restaurants, standalones are doing such a great job at it that there's always to learn when you're in a hotel doing that.
Thank you, Mr. Mann, for adding on. I would like to ask the same question, which is going to be for Ritesh Pathania. Mr. Pathania, so coming from where Zorawar is, do off-premise sales, takeaways or parcels influence future product development?
Thank you, Ocean. This is an interesting question, and rightly said by Mr. Mann also, off-premises sales, takeaways and parcels have become a new drive-through for all type of restaurants, from quick service to fine dining. Off-premises sales has allowed us to order and pay through app, websites. It's convenient, no touch, safe, hot. Having said that, restaurants have added or expanded their takeaway services out of the necessity, and the customer have started using them more also out of necessity. Looking forward, we predict off-premises sales will come in a big way. Why? Because when it comes to off-premises food service, they do a better job at delivering on everything what consumers and operators want. It is potential to drive new revenue also for restaurants and non-commercial operators, while increasing the level of customer satisfaction and loyalty. A very important said safety first. Food parcels have perceptions of being managed more tightly with the fewer touch points, and therefore as safer. When we talk about less contact solutions, no touch has been the new behavioral driver during the pandemic. As difficult as it has been, no touch or no contact has become our new normal. Through a curbside concept, you order and pay in advance. You stay in your car and it's handed over to you through the window, or placed on the curb where you pick it up and there's no delivery person touching things. The emergence of expanded offerings include groceries, as said by Mr. Dua, also DIY meal kits can drive additional sales to restaurants, and combining these with the non-touch convenience of deconstructed meal kits makes it a hit with consumers. Also adding improved brand identity and marketing, off-premises sales allows the greater interaction with the customer than delivery, and is more personal than a small drive-through window. Looking forward, Ocean, as the food service industry emerges from COVID crisis, we see off-premises food sales being a key growth driver for industry. Consumers and operators alike are embracing it, and the reasons are clear. It will be exciting to see how off-premises sales evolves as we move forward into our new normal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pathania, for sharing your comprehension about highlighting areas such as safety first, no-touch solution, improved brand identity and marketing, something that we all want to relate to in future. Well, coming to the fourth question of the discussion, I would like to ask Mr. Sen, with changed customer behavior, restrictive norms and expected technology advancement, how will restaurant business evolve in the future? Mr. Sen.
Thank you, Ocean. Really interesting discussion, and I'll take it forward. From taking the discussion forward, taking a clue from what the esteemed panelists are really talking about. And there is no doubt the pandemic has resulted a change in consumer behaviors. It has created a kind of a new normal among eating habits, spending ability, movement pattern. So business need to be proactive to accommodate these new changed behavior through improving their financial resilience, transforming the business model, and embracing technology fluency. Correspondingly, also you'll be able to see that restaurant business will depend on mass digital adoption as a sales channel and communication platform for their establishment to stay viable. So to sum it up, the key challenges that can be defined through place, production, process, and product service. Restaurants are looking at redesigning physical and virtual place, reimagining the product, developing menu, realigning their process to make it more efficient, and recreate product service experience. Now, all these can be looked through the perspective of in terms of how you capture customer value and able to deliver the appropriate value proposition. Organizations need to focus on demonstrating this value and can be done by renewing capabilities to handle these. So you can look into this transformation of business model through the product and position realignment from physical to virtual, and then moving into a more distributed and hybrid model. So to move forward, I may say that business need to focus on 4 key areas: foster ingenuity, nurturing the creativity in product development and service delivery, such menu planning and other service designs; endure trust, regain the trust with customer, capture their value, establish brand identity that provides a big opportunity in this. Optimize
profitability by optimizing your resource, learning new skill sets, modifying the revenue model like what Mr. Mann and Ritesh was talking about in terms of off-premise and takeaway services, which is also offering additional revenue by creating virtual dining experiences for customers. And finally, embracing technology, which is going to enhance your process efficiency, create a new experience for your customer. So that's the 4 mantra for transforming business model. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sen, for fetching out the future perspective. Sometimes there are too much on the platter to deal with, but with the insight given by you, I'm sure things look very achievable in the evolving time. So here we come to the 5th question of the round 1, and my question goes to Mr. Kavina. In the current situation where restaurants have minimized workforce, what can restaurants do to optimize employee performance? Mr. Kavina.
Thank you, Ocean, for that question. I think it's very pertinent to what we've been discussing today and what's being discussed around us. And I would like to answer this by highlighting 6 major points, and for all restaurateurs, I think the first thing that they need to think about and concentrate on is to display a positive attitude. Even though the situation around might be challenging, it is important to keep a positive attitude at all times, because a negative attitude can easily trickle down to the employees, and very shortly you will see it trickle down to your guests as well. So creating a positive attitude and creating a positive environment is very important. The second point would be transparent with your employees. So if you can foster transparency with your employees, they will feel more part of the team and will be engaged and motivated, to perform at the highest levels. And this can be achieved by conducting regular staff meetings, communicating with them on a regular basis while they are at work, and even providing positive encouragement from time to time. The third point would be plan ahead. Anticipating future challenges and being proactive in planning for these challenges can go a long way in keeping stress and chaos at bay. So this will also help restaurateurs prepare their employees to face such upcoming challenges in the future. It is also very important for restaurateurs to learn to delegate. Delegating some of your many tasks to your employees, generally helps them understand what is involved in day-to-day operations. It trains them to take on more responsibilities going forward, and it also helps in building trust and confidence within your environment. The 5th point I would like to highlight is reinforcing skills and creativity. So organizations need to train employees to the changing business environment. This involves learning new skills while also sharpening your current skills.
and bringing creativity in problem solving related to product development. So Zorawar and Rahul and all were talking about the new way Indian restaurants are operating, menus are changing, DIY packaged foods are taking prominence, Ritesh was talking about meal kits. So it's very important, to bring in creativity in product development, even in service delivery and in customer engagement in today's digital environment. Okay. Employees need to be trained on the application of new technology to support new operational requirements and to remain connected with their customers at all times. And the sixth point I'd like to highlight is optimizing employees' role in creating greater value for customers. So with the introduction of limited menus and creative distribution channels or distribution strategies, restaurants will now need to reorganize existing employee roles to adapt to the changing requirements. So with kitchen stations becoming more production focused instead of service focused, menu offerings will need to be rigid and durable to overcome the uncertainties of delivery timing and delivery demand, while ensuring that no quality is compromised. Employees would also need to attune themselves with electronic order taking and food delivery systems, which have become prominent these days. So it is very important for restaurateurs to manage and enhance employee performance and employee experience, and that would be the new mantra.
Thank you, Mr. Kavina, for your suggestions. Being transparent and having a positive attitude is always required. Well, having said that, we come to the end of round one. We'll go to the round two. And the first question that I would like to ask is from Mr. Mann. In the current world of digitalization, what practices can restaurants adopt to reactivate their customer segments, or to put it in a different way, are we rewriting the rules of market engagement? Mr. Mann.
So absolutely. So question here is, what all can you digitize, right? What were you not doing earlier? So you go ahead and you digitize your menus, you digitize your bills, you digitize the way people actually pay for those bills through a UPI app or however it is. Reaching out to people is one of the biggest advantages that the digital world has given us, right? So you've got tools where you know that you want to target a certain area around the hotel where your customer base is from. So what we do is we put out a marketing campaign, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on another social channel, targeting a certain people who've tagged their habits or their likes and dislikes. And those people are targeted through these digital platforms. So you must have seen a lot of times that you guys, whenever you're scrolling through your social media apps, you get these ads that you probably searched for a product in your search history, or you're interested in something. You've given out a way where you're fond of food, you're fond of Italian food, you're fond of a buffet, and that channel immediately tells you as a suggestion saying, hit this page. So that's called digitization for me. One of the biggest advantages to digitization is what I would say is we've got no more print happening at the hotel. Right? So no more print. There are no more menus. There are, chef can today decide that he wants to change a dish in the menu. And it's happened that changes are becoming quicker than possible earlier, right? Reaching out to guests through these tools has become much easier. Capturing a new set of clientele is now being understood much better by the restaurant industry, which was being done earlier as a hotel perspective. So that is a big advantage to digitization. The biggest disadvantage here is the touch and feel factor is now redundant. It's not there anymore, right? We had these beautiful glass mats, placemats in the restaurant. We can't use them anymore. Now we use paper quality, which has to be disposed of after every single use. And there are QR codes which are placed on that mat, which you can scan for your menu. So no more physical menus, no more physical bills, no more physical, physically actually swiping your card, everything's become digital. What else can you digitize? An open question here. What else can you digitize? So we've gone ahead as a restaurant, as a hotel, and we've actually digitized and gone ahead like the DIY kit that Rahul had mentioned, followed by, Ritesh and then Gautam and everybody. We've sent out cooking classes, DIY kits across to our guests. And a chef has actually come ahead and demonstrated the same of what he would do in the hotel. 3 different cameras placed, people interacting live like we're doing right now. That is the level of digitization that restaurants are now going to. But essentially the essence of touch and feel has reduced. Right? But the advantage here is you can make and feel the look of the buffets, the look of your menus online are so constantly, changing. It's become so dynamic that you can keep evolving with that factor. So that's more like digitization on how it goes along. Over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mann. We indeed live in interesting times. Restaurant managers, marketers, or F&B managers in particular are in strange state of flux as more context emerge from lockdown and attempt to re-establish a new normal. Very well explained though, the need to adjust strategies in order to be successful in future. I really second that. Well, moving on to our next question, Mr. Dua, I would want to ask this question to you. Since you have reopened your restaurant, how have you optimized resources to manage financial viability in your operations? And what role does technology play in this cause?
So like I mentioned, so running a small business, basically this pandemic has resulted in everything being, turned upside down. And it's almost like starting from scratch again. So during the lockdown, when you're sitting at home and, thinking about all of the financial burden that you have coming at you every day, whether it was paying rentals, paying salaries for staff, and the sheer uncertainty of not knowing what the future had in store. It was, it was a scary time, but it was a time when you almost come to sort of the level 0 of figuring out that, okay, if after this entire thing is, blown out, if you have absolutely nothing, how do you rebuild from there? And that is like Mr. Kavina was saying, the positivity comes in the fact that, okay, so things are not that bad, they're not ground zero. So, what happens if they're one step better than that? And that's how you almost, over the past now 10, 11 months, that's how we've sort of had to rebuild our business back up again. It was also, I would say, a wake-up call to completely realign the company. Also, somehow when you're a small business, you want to be a medium business. When you're a medium business, you want to be a large business. And that sort of never ends. So it's also for us, it's been a journey of figuring out that there is no harm in staying small. There is no harm in growing at a pace that you're comfortable with and not trying to run too fast. And again, the realignment has been towards lowering costs, towards increasing efficiency, like everybody mentioned. But most importantly, it's been towards making sure that the focus is on profitability and not on revenue. Because when I see the sales reports from my restaurants, at night just before I'm going to bed, that makes you feel really happy about seeing when you had a good day across all your outlets. But what matters more is the MIS that you see at the end of the month and what the bottom line is. And that's been one of the biggest learnings or rude awakenings during this process. So we looked staffing requirements at all outlets. We've adjusted manpower, based on for some of the restaurants. Again, figuring out these are all things that you learn in college also, but somehow when you come to the real world, you're kind of almost working with blinders on. And it's about you go back to those basic concepts of, what is the efficiency of this restaurant during each time period, and whether now does it even make sense for me to, for example, even stay open for breakfast. If, am I doing that just because I would like to serve breakfast, or am I actually making some money while doing that? So, based on, again, reduced footfalls, based on a focus for us, I would say, even in terms of the quality of manpower, because when you're doing well, everything's going great, there's a large tendency, and we kind of fell into that same trap of overstaffing all of our outlets. As a business owner, the idea is that, oh, I should make sure that, I'm never short-staffed anywhere, the guest experience shouldn't suffer. What that does is kind of, in terms of your manpower requirements, you move towards quantity rather than quality. Whereas if you hire quality manpower from the beginning and focus on efficiency, I think that's, like I'm learning now, is a much better way to move forward. Technology, as you mentioned, again, it's been a lot of people have also mentioned that, this has been the biggest sort of wake-up call for restaurateurs, and we've suddenly overnight figured out, like Zorawar was saying, how to digitize everything. So apart from all of the QR codes and all of the digital menus, everyone has had to do that. We've also, a big struggle again for small businesses and standalone restaurants is third-party aggregators. There's a constant battle against Zomato and Swiggy, losing commissions to them, and almost sort of doing their bidding because their rules seems to change every day, and their focus is obviously something else. So a big part of this time has been to drive our guests to our self-driven platforms, whether it's our own website, whether it's ordering through a more efficient WhatsApp experience. Again, move them to our portals for table reservations. And again, coming back to the idea of profitability, it doesn't matter how much revenue you make out of a Zomato or Swiggy. It's how much is left at the end of the day after you paid all of your bills. We've also been lucky, we realized the importance of having a very, very strong technology-driven customer database solution. Because eventually when you were reopening again, and again, like I said, starting from scratch, it came down to reaching out to those customers who are your true loyalists. That base that that love your product so much that they'll be more than happy to support you in whatever way. So it's about having access to those names, numbers, emails, contacts, to have them in one place, efficiently handled and updated on a regular basis. We've also gone in now for a much stronger inventory management system, trying to push that into being as automized as it possibly can be. Again, that helps avoid a lot of pilferage, a lot of leakage, and a lot of sort of reduced costs so we can work in a more profitable environment. And most importantly, social media, again, keeping in touch with your customers has been so important. At that time during the initial lockdown days, everybody is going through the same journey. So it's about, as a brand, if you're able to connect with your customers, keep up to date, keep in touch. And it's been really, really helpful for us, all social media, in actually driving sales on a daily basis. People have such a short memory span that initially, when, as soon as things started to open up, there was suddenly a million options for home delivery, like Zorawar said. So now suddenly standalone restaurants have to compete with 5-star hotels, and it's the same audience. So it was a lot about pushing, driving through social media, doing specials every day, every weekend. If there's nothing to do a special of, you create something and you just make sure that the audience is aware and the audience is sort of, in queue with your product.
Thank you, Mr. Dua. Very much speculated. The old business models are actually old now and new now. So aligning the cost to have a healthy P&L with control mechanism, definitely where the technologies are complementing us in a big way, it's a boon to us. Moving on, the third question of the round 2 goes to Mr. Pathania. How can technology support restaurants to establish safety and hygiene in the workplace?
Okay, thank you, Ocean. It is indeed an interesting question. When we talk about technology, everyone was talking about technology, Mr. Mann, Mr. Dua, and Mr. Kavina. When we talk about technology, is designed to make life easier. It's designed to simplify our personal lives and work lives. This simplification is particularly the case in the restaurant industry. Having said that, today's technology buzzword, things like mobile apps, artificial intelligence, analytics, smart devices, and the like have turned the gaze to the restaurant industry. This comes as no surprise that technology has always had a strong positive impact on the restaurant industry. Restaurants want to deliver a flawless, convenient, and enjoyable experience to their customers. Technology offers a means to speed up processes and improve the customer experience, thereby achieving the goal of the restaurant. Looking at some popular restaurant tech tools like branded mobile app, every restaurant technology in the digital age is in some way impacting or improved by the introduction of branded mobile apps. The reason that branded restaurant apps are so impactful on the restaurant industry is that they can do much and provide a ton benefits like better target potential diners with location-based push notification and offers. They also improve client retention and dinner frequency with app-based loyalty programs. A new convenient channel for customers to place online orders, as said by Mr. Mann, online orders for pickup and delivery. New payment options that allows customers to pay with their mobile devices instead of their wallets. And of course, rightly said by Mr. Mann that reserving table without a call. So that is also an added thing which is there. Also, we had seen technology supporting restaurants with online mobile ordering. So mobile ordering, we've seen that, and rightly said by Mr. Dua also, that online food ordering is not a new technology, but how orders are ordered and paid, delivered and picked up are evoking. There are fewer opportunities for errors to occur because of miscommunication, and it's easier to upsell through an online portal because there are pictures of items which make the offer more exciting to eateries. So when we talk about mobile apps, have also aided more evolution and boomed in digitally placed orders. Finally, Ocean, adopting technology helps your customers and your bottom line staff. Mastering restaurant tech in digital age is all about delivering the best convenience and value to your customers. Succeeding with the branded restaurant mobile apps or even online ordering platforms means you have to understand how these restaurant tech tools can be used to enhance your existing customer experience, not changing it completely. So thank you very much.
You know, Ritesh, I'd like to add something.
Yes, please.
Digitization was bound to happen. You know, yes. There was no way that it would not have by virtue of all that COVID-19 did was it just made it faster.
Yeah.
You know, it was bound to happen, whether it happened in 2021, 25, COVID-19 just made it faster. You know, and this generation loves to scroll and type. And we hate this human interaction now. I think everybody's just comfortable on their phones, mobile apps. People just love to scroll and type to an extent that our in-room dining orders are now placed through an app. Instead of talking to somebody, the guy actually orders through an app which is like similar to a Zomato or a Swiggy platform, where you just add things to your cart. You say order. We've got a screen in our in-room dining that says flash, flash, flash. Your order is there's a new order available. That's it.
And reordering also.
Yeah, absolutely. There is just
yes.
People are loving to scroll and type. People don't want to talk to each other now.
That's nice. Interesting. Thank you, Ocean.
Thank you, Mr. Mann. Thank you, Mr. Pathania. While talking too much about the technology, there are some intricacies involved, though. My next question is also based on the similar lines. Mr. Sen, I would like to ask this question. Being innovative and managing risk at the same time, what are the challenges restaurateurs face while adopting technology, and what can restaurants focus on while adopting new technology?
Right. Thank you, Ocean. A very interesting discussion going on, and my answer is absolutely, taking a clue from all the contribution that Zorawar, Ritesh, and Rahul has made from a perspective of a large-scale hotel operating food and beverage outlet and to a kind of a standalone property. Now, of course, in the advent of the pandemic, we have seen there are certain technologies people are talking about, and almost all category and subcategory of restaurant have picked up or resorted to in terms of revive their businesses. But once the lockdown is eased out and we are able to take a look into category of restaurants' performances across the globe, we found that not all the restaurants are really performing at the same line, and that suggests that the dining experience, that you are taking it up to the customer as a key value proposition. It varies from different category of restaurant. So while most of the restaurant categories are using a particular type of technology which are available, and there are a lot more new technology that are coming in, digitization is definitely there, but there are other kinds of technology. It is important for restaurant to assess the need of technology from a point of view of customer dining experience and organizational requirement. So a reassessment of product and service, production, place, and people in the four area from a perspective of how you provide experience to your customer. So which is the area are more, what is the weightage you put in these four baskets while you are creating your final value proposition to cater to the customer dining experience. And a fair asset, because often we are able to see that the technology adoption is essentially assessed from a perspective of four things, like environment plays a very big role, and that probably creates the need for technology adoption for all kinds of restaurants or organizations and businesses. But there is an organizational context again, and organization always take decision based on their business model. What is really they are willing to take it up. And then comes the service encounter. So that's the real moment of truth. What really customers are, what is your segments really looking at, what product and service you are really taking up to. And eventually then the customer experience. In terms of getting the service through or enabled by technology, and their ability and experience of using the technology. A lot more that been studied if you look at self-service technologies that are employed in India and other parts as well. So I suggest that there is a reassessment required of these four dimensions of product, production, place, and people. With a grid of mechanization and cognition of type of technology that you allow and that you apply. So there are activities, there are skill sets, or there are tasks that are more mechanized, Okay, there are restaurants that are associated with that kind of activity little more than probably in the dimensions of cognitions or softer issues. Say for example, you talk about a pizzeria or QSR, the value perspective, the service understanding of a customer is very different. Okay, so a fair bit of assessment required using this particular kind of a scale, and that probably justify that if it is a standalone restaurant, what would be their technology focus? Of course, there will be some common, so digitization in every aspects where the data is generated, application of AI that is coming up in allowing you to take a better decisions, so will always be there in most of the cases. But at the same time, there are advanced mechanized technology that are probably useful and creating opportunity for large scale restaurant formats and hotels, and small scale essentially looking on the local alternatives. So to go ahead along with this kind of assessment, restaurant organizations also need to look into some aspects of sharing technologies, co-participation in developing certain kind of technologies, co-creation. And I believe restaurant representative bodies and business partners can play a very significant role, because larger organizations with the kind of capital flow and backup they have, they are always the primary enabler of a new technology that is coming in. Whereas you will find small to medium scale enterprises are slowly moving into the first or second generation adapter to the technology. So that kind of support is required to help the overall restaurant industry to come up with a strategy of identifying customized technology need and adapting it to ensure their business is becoming more efficient and resilient. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sen, for simplifying the complexity of opting new technology. Coming to the last question of the discussion today, Mr. Kavina, I would like to ask this question to you. How can restaurants thrive in the new normal? What, according to you, could be the possible way forward?
Thank you, Ocean, for that. I think this is more like summing up what we've been discussing. And even having read some latest industry reports, I can say that the most critical thing that restaurants need to do is to build and maintain trust for all their stakeholders. Whether it's their internal stakeholders or external stakeholders, building trust is extremely critical. Trust that your physical space is safe for them. Trust that your stakeholders' emotional needs are being safeguarded. In this digital age, trust that the information that is being shared is secure, okay, and trust that all financial concerns are being served. So creating this environment of trust is extremely important. The second point is to reimagine the customer experience. So make the physical environment, we know this is happening, make it as clean and stress-free as possible by adopting rigorous frequent cleaning and sanitation protocols, while actively engaging with your customers to communicate how you're protecting them and their health and safety requirements. Okay. Restaurants must also look at opportunities to use incentives and special offers to welcome existing customers back and even attract new customers going forward. Moving customer touchpoints online as part of a broader effort to protect the health and safety of both customers and employees. This means that restaurants will be restricted in delivering the personal touch and the interpersonal interactions that traditionally played a key role in the overall customer's experience. The key for all restaurants here will be to strike the right balance between technology-enabled self-service and the need for human interaction in service-based offerings. And the third point I would like to highlight is restaurants need to focus on operational agility to navigate the uncertainty. In the new normal, we know that the new normal may no longer support pre-pandemic staffing levels, which is a given, and companies may need to look at reducing staff or reassigning employees to other roles. Yet, at the same time, they may find themselves dealing with sudden changes in customer volume for reasons related to the pandemic. So to deal with this, organizations may want to make more use of flexible or contract staff or third-party service providers so that they can quickly respond to changing business conditions. The other challenge is adhering to COVID-19 related health and safety protocols that have been mandated by the government and addressing customers' health worries. So this represents a significant burden for organizations as they may not be able to operate with the typical staffing levels. So this is where technology solutions which are currently in use will continue to be in existence, like your contact tracing apps, like the Arogya Setu app that we've all been used to, your digital menus, your digital display screens showing cleaning schedules and so on and so forth. So all these will continue to be an important feature in protecting guests and staff as we go ahead. So I would like to say that the current situation is not here to stay. It will certainly pass. But this is the time for restaurants to act and to adapt to the new normal. And this will help them thrive in the years ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Kavina, for showing us the possible path ahead. Well, here we come to an end of round 2 and today's discussion. I do have some questions from the audience. Well, the questions are open to all the panel members. This first question, which is very interesting coming to me, well, directed to Mr. Mann, that what is going to happen with Sunday brunches, food festival and New Year bashes? Mr. Mann, would you like to comment on that?
So I'll tell you what, guys, our domestic demand is so strong that people really, now people have started coming out to restaurants, to places. And I'll tell you, we're talking about New Year's. We had to turn away 42 cars from the gate of the hotel or on New Year's Eve 2021. That's how good the demand was. We turned away people, right? We were packed to capacity. We were packed to capacity in every single manner. And then we had to restrict our entries, for 3 different venues, saying we don't want any more guests because we don't want trouble for everybody who's inside. So the demand is there. It's just about how you play it forward. Sunday brunches, interestingly, have bounced back since, I think, October last year, right? And that we see as one of the busiest periods that is currently, one of the busiest meal periods across the week. Sunday brunches have bounced back. We've started investing more money into Sunday brunches. We've started putting money into even entertainment into Sunday brunches that wasn't, that we had thought that wouldn't be there in this year. So food festivals, again, interestingly, food festivals are now a way of actually marketing your restaurant. Right? It's not just giving something out to people who are walking into your restaurant. It's a way of actually attracting people back to your restaurant, saying, I'm doing something new. I'm not doing any more boring buffets. I'm not serving you any more boring kebabs, but come back to the restaurant. It's a way of going ahead, marketing your restaurant. The smarter way to do it is, so one of my lowest occupancy days is Wednesdays and Tuesdays. What I started doing is I've started putting out themed nights on Tuesdays and Wednesday nights. I'm marketing those out, right? And now for the past 2 weeks, we've seen 100% increase in our restaurant occupancy from the previous 6 months average, 100% increase in February because I'm targeting our low occupancy days. So it's demand is there. You just gotta, if it's not there, you gotta create it for you. Right. Thanks, Ocean.
Thank you, Mr. Mann. Looks very hopeful though. The other question that I have is for Mr. Dua. What is your revenue share between on and off premise services? Who are your key partners and online aggregators for off premise delivery?
So again, this is kind of, I would say pre-pandemic, it was about 20% of our total sales, which is delivery and takeaway, to going when we were operating for a month and a half with only deliveries. So that was the only source of revenue for all the restaurants. But I would say now it has settled, especially in the past 2 months, to about 75-25. So a bit of a bump from what it was pre-pandemic. But as we see the dine out graph and sales go up, we're also noticing a drop in deliveries at the same time. What we intend to do is not lose sight of that and kind of slip back into old habits, but to keep capitalizing on that moving forward as well, and not to ignore that segment. Um, traditionally, we've been on Zomato and Swiggy, the two most sort of popular platforms for home delivery. I had to pivot from opening a restaurant and converting it into a cloud kitchen in the middle of the pandemic. So for that, we decided to go a different way, and we created our own website using Shopify. And a lot of resources, a lot of design time was spent on the website experience and the ordering experience, and kind of making it in a way that customers kind of leave those apps and come and order directly from you. How that helps me is that I get charged a fraction of the commission that I would normally be paying to those two parties. For my own website, it also helps me have better control. I also have delivery riders on my payroll. So it's for me, it's always an incentive to receive orders on my own platforms rather than Zomato and Swiggy, because they don't allow you to do deliveries by yourself anymore. So yeah, it's been. We're constantly looking at a big. Funnily enough, one of the biggest source for order generation right after the lockdown opened up was actually WhatsApp, and it became a task because for somebody to talk professionally to customers over WhatsApp and to sort of speak the language of the brand, not be too casual, not throw, when there's the right time to throw an emoticon or be inappropriate, was funnily enough became a high priority, and we had to actually train our restaurant managers and supervisors into speaking to guests on text on WhatsApp in a particular manner. So again, it's been the past 10 months have been so much of a seesaw that we see customer patterns literally changing almost every day, every week. A lot of it coming back to how it was pre-COVID. So suddenly the Zomato orders have gone up and the website orders are coming down. So it's about constantly watching and noticing how customer trends are moving towards our business and trying to offer incentives to sort of move them in the direction that we would like. So, yeah.
I believe Mr. Dua has answered all the parts of question.
Right, Ocean, to add on to this question, there are some very interesting observations that though with the normalcy coming back and pollution taking place, so probably there will be a drop in room dining and orders, but at the same time this become a kind of a food habit which people will not going to dispose very quickly, and this leaves a very interesting opportunity for restaurants to utilize in terms of taking new creation to the customer, connecting with the customer and creating kind of an experience for them. So this channel in terms of takeaways and deliveries is going to stay.
Thank you, Mr. Sen. Well, there's no more questions, so I'll sum it up. What an amazing knowledge-driven discussion we had today. Right from the product innovation to technological advancement, we had them all. Building trust in internal as well as external customer, maintaining the motivation level high to propagate further into recreating the entirely new customer experiences, where we spoke about operational agility to navigate uncertainty, adopting technology prepares us completely for tackling new generation challenges. So this is all we have as a takeaways. Now I, on the behalf of IHM-A family, request Ranajoy to give a vote of thanks for our external members.
Thank you, Ocean. On behalf of the students and the faculty of IHM Aurangabad, I would like to thank all the panelists for their involvement and their willingness to take part in today's webinar. I would also like to thank our support team led by Mr. Zakirullah and digital team led by Ms. Smita Parmar in helping us produce this Thursday talks at IHM-A. Finally, a big thank you to the audience who have joined us today. We will be back next Thursday with another interesting panel discussion in our series of Renewing Resurgence. Until then, goodbye and good night. Thank you so much.